Put together every continent and bring every form of life to the entirety of our world from absolutely nothing. Easy, no? I'm Araknie and today I'm presenting you something that you might have never heard of even if it was a AAA release for the time. I'm talking about Terranigma, game released only in Europe outside of Japan. What a nice situation, we got something you Americans missed out on. Good. But also weird, since this is certainly a sequel to Illusion of Gaia. The developers in their own in-game building say so too. I would hate if that happened to me, so I understand the frustration. This is an action RPG with a lot of managerial elements. Some are mandatory until you get to develop cities. Those are mostly optional aside from a few elements. Those will be telegraphed to you pretty in advance, so you won't get stuck unless you're forgetful. But in general, they will tell you even most of the secondary stuff if you really pay attention. Their dialogue might change if you change their living areas, so go back and talk because it will be useful. Aside from that, you also have a personal story. Your character Ark will have to take responsibility for opening Pandora's box. But why was he able to access it when nobody else in the village could? Why do we live in the underworld, literally the world of Satan? Are we dead? What are those towers and what purpose do they serve? Are we good? Are we bad? Surprisingly enough, all these questions will be answered with your voyage, and even more smaller things and things, but yeah, this is a very political and opinionated game. You'll find that I agree with a lot of its themes. If you want the best stuff, equipment and other things of the sort, you need to make choices and follow what the developer thinks of the world. This one postulates that technology is killing the world and human relations. Well, they weren't wrong. There's gonna be debates of in-game dialogue of how everything was better when cities were villages. Better air, less pollution, more people were generous towards each other. Even getting scared of farming animals in the vicinity or being afraid of a family legacy. All stuff that I find ridiculous in real life, so I like how this was written. I want more green in my cities. Everybody talks about how they want to breathe better air while approving more and more cement castings. Hypocritical little assholes. So yeah, you do what you gotta do because you'll have to reflect the world in 1996, but the game, your protagonist, and many other characters aren't happy about it. Being on planet Earth has to be a good thing to be actually appreciative of life, after all. It's just how it works. So yeah, even back then games could be very involved politically. This one gets pretty serious, to be honest. There is many more things, but I like to give one example and not repeat myself, so that should suffice. Never trust cartoony graphics. I learned my lesson back in the day watching Fist of the North Star. Didn't think anymore that animation was for kids after seeing that show's reruns in 1998, oh no. The gameplay is divided in two categories, but with the first one we can keep it kinda short. It's stuff that we've seen before. There's jumping, moving about, using items to solve puzzles in dungeons, all the classic Super Nintendo staples of the genre. The praise I can give it is that they try to make every fighting location different. Some have different puzzles, some are more peculiar and technical with their combat, others will focus on platforming. They can afford doing all that since Terranigma offers you plenty of movement options, but unlike in Colossus they are not tied to the weapon you have. They are of your character and have them all from the start, and I like that decision a lot, especially since different attacks do damage to different enemy types. It would have been unfair to make it hard without a chance from the beginning. Allows for some sequence breaking and to do stuff earlier than you're supposed to. Good for exploration, especially when you unlock the possibility of traveling by sea. Enemy encounters are good, some relying on having certain equipment, especially bosses, but also some of the regular fodder. But when that happens, this title makes sure to give you what you need in the same place, maybe hidden, maybe you need to explore, but it's there. Also, they made sure to give you a map for all the dungeons that are not linear, and they're very good too. You can see exits, different elevations, and also if you click on these mysterious text spots you get hints towards what's present in that room. They just have made a pretty original way to access the map and many other things, but it's all there for you to explore. Even text to refresh you on your moves and how to perform them. Appreciate when a game makes it so I don't have to bust the manual out, very forward thinking. Yeah, to get into your menu you press select and enter this box. Now this might seem weird and clunky, and it is, but it's also full of charm. I can't fault it also because it helped me in a way. You can separate usable items from weapons and armor in an area where many other RPGs put everything in the same space. It's certainly more organized and less confusing. My only major problem was with the final boss. It's because it's not made of patterns, in particular the second phase. I don't care if it's a spoiler, I have to warn you. You can hit this guy only in a particular spot, his vagina dentata, but only if it's close enough to you. And without a pattern, that means that it's gonna happen at random. Took me 20 minutes of fighting to manage defeating it, and I was out of any healing item then, even if I got them maxed out before the fight. It's just relentless because it also does another attack. This ray of light that you need to parry with the R button, your shield maneuver. It's something that you never needed before, so even if I know this game well, I always forget it exists. And it cuts your health in half each time it hits. It's pretty brutal if you don't defend. Give me patterns or don't make any bosses, that's what I'll say while keeping it classy. The other major part of the gameplay is the upgrade and management system. That involves also item hunting, it's pretty involved, especially for being just a 4MB cartridge. But originally the developers wanted this to be a 6MB one. They had to cut lots of content when Enix, the publisher, said no to that, and decided wisely to cut this part of the game, to not sacrifice the story, the music or the exploration. But how does it work? Well, initially you start in the underworld and it's mandatory. You need to rebuild the world before you can go there and explore it after all. There are two hidden places because they are references to Illusion of Gaia and Soul Blazer, the previous entries in this trilogy. You can find them and bring them back or not, it's up to you. Once on the real map you can explore them for some secret items, but they are not fundamental. You get the best armor and weapon just by playing the story, so if you play without a guide then just do the 5 towers and don't fight the hidden places, don't feel bad about it. After that you're on planet Earth, but it's all dead and barren, so another section of mandatory building comes about in a different form. Basically in all places you have to cleanse them and defeat a boss to allow life back again. It starts with plants, then birds, then other animals until you make it so that human life is possible once more. Then it gets a lot more complicated. Now is when everything starts gradually opening up to you. Upgrading will give you first a ship, then a plane, while keeping them both useful. You need an airstrip to land a plane after all, so mix and match, going on foot with these other two instruments to really explore the entirety of it. It's pretty involved, and here not everything is mandatory. I'll say that basically you need to develop and expand only 2 cities to get the before mentioned transportation methods. Those are part of the story. The other 4 can be basically ignored or barely touched upon, just if you need a specific item for the other 2. The sword is really ours, by the way, so geographical knowledge, I'm talking about real life if you can believe it, is going to be useful. They change the name of places, but the locations are there and you can guess what towns are they referenced. They change the name of places, but the locations are there and you can guess what towns are they referencing. Neo Tokyo is really an obvious one, but Near Lake is a pun and also a good hint for a North American city. They are generally more like the latter. I can't talk in detail about what you need to do because I will just give you a solution to many of the ways to expand the towns. The best way I can put it is that some people will tell you what they need, so find it, bring it, equip it so they can see it and react to it. And do that as much as you want or not. If you get stuck while trying to advance something, again, don't worry, you know exactly what you need. I did everything, even if it's not that simple. Remember I told you about the cuts to the city expansion system? Well, that caused some bugs. There's 2 towns that might not get bigger because they might bug out. How does that happen? Who knows? In my years of playing this, I know that only these little tricks will help you out. First of all, sleep, then save in a different town from the one you're trying to grow. If that doesn't work, you need to reset your console, basically cleaning the temporary memory. Apparently can't move forward otherwise, as long as you didn't save in the city that needs to grow, this suggestion should work. Good luck on avoiding any bugs. Why do all this? Because each town comes with their own story, the people with their motivations, their politics and reasons to live and do. You'll meet famous French kings and revolutionaires, Belle, the Wright brothers, talented painter Matisse, There's a bunch of side stories. They might go more in depth than not, but they're mostly worth seeing through. So many conflicting people. Playing this game you can really see how shitty interactions between humans will become in a few years. I wonder if the world would be better if Terranigma released in the USA. Probably not. And that's the game, yeah, it's pretty unique. But not in the art style. I mean, it's pretty polished, but a bit inconsistent. I love the animation, but I don't feel it is a big departure compared to Illusion of Gaia. Listen, I honestly think Lufia 2 looks better. This is a bit generic. They keep evolving the Robotrek style, thinking it's a good base to begin with, but it's not. Here the best looking stuff comes from the locations. They've got really great variety. The characters for me look the same between Robotrek and Illusion of Gaia. It's just not interesting to talk with these characters. They could have at least make them look different, but there's repeats even between this. I feel like I've talked to some of them between 7 to 10 times. For the amount of dialogue it has, that's not good enough. Musically it was really inspired. The melodies have all thematic sense, it's just incredible what they did with the sound font. They really bended it to their desires, reaching a point of making you feel like it went beyond the mere capabilities of a Super Nintendo. A world map theme that surprises you with a bridge that happens while you're thinking that it's on the second loop already. Soundtracks for each city, all representing their culture and being their unique style. Dungeon themes that evoke the sense of fantasy, making you understand that there is still a place for it in a world like this. A place for imagination is needed if you want to keep the dreamy human spirit alive after all. I love playing Terranigma, so I'm saying this one gets a 9 out of 10. The only reason why this game isn't one of my favorites is because of that final boss fight. It uses different rules than the other bosses, and that's just bad game design. It needs to have a tutorial in the form of a mini-boss or some character speaking on how crazy it is, but something needs to be there for me to accept it. If you wanna see me play the games that I will review plus some extra stuff, catch me on Twitch at Araknie Retro. It's my natural habitat, you see? Until next time, ciao ciao!